Oh, Joel, waiting for you to come on the show. You kidding me? Okay, let me see if I can forward the link to you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Bridge Radio Africa on this first day of the month of May. Welcome. God bless you. Tonight we will have Dr. Lester Tenney, many of our panelists. Welcome, Dr. Fix. On the show, welcome unto you as well, Dr. Lester Tenney, to be discussing issues pertaining to Liberia. And let's start with our introduction, beginning with our guest, Dr. Lester Tenney.
I am the Dean of the A. Romeo Horton College of Business and Public Administration at the University of Liberia. Uh, I hold a PhD in economics from Nigeria, Ife. I hold a Master of Science degree in oil and gas from the University of Liverpool, another Master's in economics from South Africa. I was former Vice President for Technical Services at the National Oil Company of Liberia. I teach at Caleb University, visiting professor of economics in Nigeria. I am a visiting lecturer of petroleum economics at the University of Liverpool. Actually, it's an adjunct. Uh, I'm an author of full books and published about 35 peer-reviewed articles. And I'm an educator. Basically, I'm an educator, a member of the Congress for Democratic Change, Coalition for Democratic Change, and an ardent believer in George Weah's vision for Liberia.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Fisk.
Yeah, I just want to say, extend my uh, welcome to our guests this evening, and I also want to extend my greetings to the listening and watching viewing public out there. I hope we are able to meet your expectations tonight with another explosive episode of Reach Radio. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Dr. Fisk. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now, the media mogul, the giant, the medicine of the microphone, Ashford the Giant Garlic, will not be present tonight, but certainly extends his love due to unforeseen circumstances, but he's well. So tonight we're privileged to have Dr. Lester Tenney, Dr. Fix, and our other co-host who will be joining us shortly as soon as they are able to. Hey, there you go. Welcome, Mr. Joel Dennis. Please greet our audience as
Hello.
we
Yeah.
prepare to interview Dr. Lester Tenney. Welcome, Sister Letty Brooks Roberts. All right, Joel, please greet the audience for us.
Good evening.
Hello, everyone, and good to be back here. I'm happy to have some oxygen to breathe again today, and I hope everyone is safe and ready to enjoy the show. Welcome, everyone. Thank you.
Excellent. Madam Letty Brooks Roberts, please greet our audience for us, please.
Yes, good evening. Welcome to another exciting edition of Bridge Radio Africa with your host, Miss Pastor Adetus Addy. Thank you for joining us tonight. We ask that you please make yourselves comfortable as we do have a special guest for you tonight. Please be prepared to discuss some current events. Make yourselves comfortable again. Grab a drink of choice or your meal of choice as we bring you Bridge Radio Africa. We ask that you please be respectful of each other. Please be respectful of our panelists. Most importantly, please be respectful of our guests. Thank you. Back to
Well,
you,
thank you,
Pastor.
Madam Brooks. Thank you so very much. Once again, greetings to all of you, stalwart panelists, and our dedicated viewers and listeners. We want to say welcome once again. And we're privileged to have Dr. Lester Tenney. I'll be operating as your co host, along with none other but the most brilliant female on the panel in the show business, none other but Madam Letty Brooks Roberts. Dr. Tenney, Liberia is at a crossroads. Its political parties are preparing to take the helm of power from a government that you support. Just last week, the Honorable Joseph Imam Boyka elected his vice president. What are your thoughts?
Well, we at the level of Congress, I'm a member of the strategy team. We at the level of Congress, in our own strategic room, lay out various options, scenario we call them, situational analysis in order to see the see and employ the necessary strategy for this 2023 election. Basically, our priority focus is to have a one-round victory. Two reasons for that: the playing field is crowded. The cost of going to a second round election can be huge. Uh, Expectation can be very, very much timid. So we are employing all our resources, all our strategy to ensure that we can come off a first round victory. Uh, so we had laid out different possible candidates, matching them with the leading opposition, which is the Unity Party. Uh, in our SWOT analysis, uh, we were sure that only one candidate posed a significant risk to a one-round victory. And of course, that candidate was Yombly Kanga Lawrence. And the reason for that is that she comes from an ethnic group that has not tasted the executive mansion, whether as vice president or presidential candidate. She hailed from an ethnic group that cut across over 5 different counties in Liberia, specifically Masorado, specifically Magibi. They are found in Bassa, they are found in Riverside, they are found in Lower Nima County, they are found in Lower Bum County. In
30
terms of
seconds.
in terms of demographic dispersion, we see that her presence as a running mate to any presidential candidate would have posed a significant threat to our one-round victory. We would have won, but we would have gone into a second round. Uh, so, and then we put all
Well, thank you.
candidates.
Thank you, Dr. Tenney. Each of my panelists will have 2 questions for you, and I would just like to encourage you if you can kind of make your answers limited within 2 minutes, just so we can be able to ask you more questions and benefit from your knowledge concerning our political affairs in the country. Having said that, you stated that you were hoping for Madam Yombly Kanga Lawrence, but it seems that your party also has a fracture, such as there's a divide between the NPP and Madam Joa Howard Taylor, which helped you to make the second round in the last elections from 38 to 60%, and at which the Unity Party had 28% and then 38% in the second round. But you did that with the support of the MDR as well as Alex Tyler's party and other little parties that tend to support you. But now, like the MPP, but now they are fractured. You don't have Prince Johnson. You don't have Alex Tyler or the NPP being divided between James Banney and Madam Joa Howard Taylor. How can you assume or suggest that you're confidently going to win a first round?
Well, we do not have a divided NPP. We have an expelled member of the NPP. We have an expelled member of the NPP. Barney is on his own. He left as a solo candidate. He left as an individual. The NPP remains united. The executive committee, the National Executive Committee, which is the highest decision-making body of the party before Congress, remains unanimous in their support to the re-election of President Weah. So we do not have a divided NPP. We have an expelled member of the NPP. And so within that context, of course, we cannot honorate Barney because he's a current senator and he has a constituency in his area that he won the senatorial election. However, that he may not pose a real danger to any of our progress, because of the democratic flavor that encompasses our administration. One is at liberty to choose where one wants to go. And so he was given an exit by his party because of some issues that internally they had. But the party remains intact. The leadership of the party remains very supportive to the agenda of the re-election process. So we do not have a fractured coalition, no. Of course, technically, Tyler is a paper tax entity. All of these people were accommodated on the basis of political pluralism. So he's a briefcase. He has a briefcase political party with no real members. But because of his presence as a former speaker of the 50th or 51st legislature, we accommodate anybody who pledged their support. Whether you have a 2-man party or a 100-man party, we encourage everybody to join us in our march towards the victory 2023 October.
Thank you very much. All right, at this time, I'll let my panelists ask you 2 questions, beginning with Dr. Fisk, followed by Joel and my co-host, Letty Roberts.
Once again, welcome, Dr. Tenney. I just want to start off by helping us to understand the last time that George Weah had a press conference to update the Liberian population about happenings within the country.
Excuse me?
When was the last time George Weah had a press conference, which is very significant as a democracy because the president is accountable to the people. When was the last time George Weah had a press conference to update Liberia and Liberians?
So the way George Weah, first of all, is not the regular kind of president that one would expect. He has broken all of the walls of engagement. There is no formality with George Weah.
Can we just answer the question? When was the last time George Weah had a press conference? I mean, let's forget about the rhetoric. That's a simple question. When was the last time he had a press conference?
I'm laying a premise that will speak to your question.
The premise is different from the fact because it provides a justification for the fact. I'm asking for the fact and not necessarily the premise. When was the last time George Weah had a press conference? I'm not asking for the premise. Let's talk about the fact. We can discuss the premise later. When?
But if you ask me when last I woke up from bed, you need to understand when I went to bed.
Well, those are apples and oranges. Quick question. When was the
So
last
then
time
the question is,
conference?
I am telling you that we have a president that is not a formal person. He may not go in the studio to read a piece of text in the form of a press conference where journalists will be present. His interaction with the population in itself is a kind of a press conference because the
No, it
essence
is
of
not
press
a kind of a
conference
press
is
conference. We don't want a kind
the
of a press
essence of the
conference.
press
In other
conference.
words, the question is he's never had a press conference. Let's move forward. Next question. You talk about having a first round victory. How do you have a first round? Are you just concerned as a party about victories? Victories that is subjective. In other words, victory intended for the CDC.
But it is true
Explain
victory that the
no, no,
mandate
that's
is,
a question. That's a
it
question.
is true. It is true victory.
Explain for us.
It
Explain for
is true
us.
victory
That's
that the
a question
mandate
I want
is.
to ask. That's a question I want to
Hello.
ask. Yeah, that's a question I want to ask.
Okay, go ahead.
Good. So explain to us because a victory at the ballot box is a victory for CDC as a political party versus the other party. I mean, there's no way we can parse that. Okay. But let us understand the victory that George Weah has given to the Liberian people, because last I remember, as a result of the last election, George Weah was employed for 6 years. Help us understand the percentage of Liberians that have been employed in return by Mr. George Weah. Help us understand. Let us discuss that a little bit.
So one can understand the intervention of the 6 year employment, looking at the context of the structure of the country. One, you look at life expectancy, for example, Liberian live longer than in previous regime. The former president's life expectancy was around 64. Now in Liberia, the life expectancy is 66. What does it say? When people are living longer, it means that they are eating healthier. Their health facilities have improved. Income is improved.
So you are trying to
People,
establish a correlation between the leadership of George Weah and longevity. I mean, is that
so
even reasonable?
so the question you ask is, what has he achieved?
Yeah.
I'm giving you an example that people
No,
are living longer.
correlation and something that's causal are two different things. I don't want you to confuse the public by talking about something that's correlational. Let's talk about something that's causal. Are you saying as a result of George Weah, now Liberians are living longer? Is that what you are saying?
I'm saying that as a result of his intervention in the lives of the people, I'm speaking towards his intervention in the lives of the people. What are those interventions?
Mhm.
He has improved health delivery. He has ensured that the cost of living has reduced, the standard of living has increased, thus giving rise to longevity. So, what are the factors giving rise to longevity? If people are unhappy, if people are stressed, they will not live long. Honor George Weah, people are living long because the burden of survival has been lessened.
So you have
The
not
burden.
explained to us whether how George Weah has been able to impact job employment, which
So I'm
helps
giving
to
you
give no,
no,
excuse me, which helps to give people dignity. You have yet avoided another question. I mean,
no, 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 no.
I will turn it
You
over
don't
back
forget
to
you
you
have a
so that
time
All
other
right,
people
thank
restriction.
you,
will
guys.
ask
Thank you.
questions. Mr.
Thank
Terry,
you.
can I answer those two questions I've just asked? You can continue.
All right, so no problem. We'll definitely come back to you guys. Let's certainly welcome Brother Joel Williams. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Appreciate your presence. Tonight, Mrs. Roberts and I will be co-hosting the Bridge Radio Africa podcast, and I want to thank you for your presence. Um, my brother Joel Dennis.
Yes.
Any two
Thank you,
questions?
Dr. Lester Tenney. It's a pleasure meeting you. Um, I too would like to understand because forget Liberian people are living longer because living longer means probably suffering more. Fine. Yeah, I didn't die at 64.5. Maybe at 65, I'm still suffering. But I just need to understand some really bread and butter issues here. You're saying confidently that George Weah will win in the first round, outside of us, with the exception of anybody choosing Yomli Kanga. I mean, where do you get this absolute certainty from? Like, I mean, you got some statistical polling that you've done, or this is just Kobo shop politics that we're discussing here? Because I would like to know like the real stats that you're reading from.
So about 6 months ago, we sent a team in various counties,
Mhm.
independent team to ascertain the reality on the ground and get feedback from interacting with the ordinary people.
Mhm.
Of course, in the southeast, there were concerns raised on the 6th year as to the lack of connectivity of the southeast to the rest of the country. But notwithstanding, the people maintain and enjoy the confidence of ensuring that President Weah gets a second mandate to complete what he has envisioned for the country. So it is not an assumption that it is possible that we have a first round victory. It is based on data that we have collected from
Can you share that
independent
data?
sources.
Can you share that polling? Do you have that polling? Because I mean, I would like to know. And the reason why I'm asking this because I don't want this to be a prelude to you guys not accepting an election if you lose. So if you have that data, is it possible that you can share this data with us? And further, I just want to know. I mean, I'm going to ask you a question here today. If George Weah loses this election, will there be a peaceful transfer of power in Liberia come January 2024?
But we have always been a party of peaceful. We have always maintained
I
peace.
get that. I'm asking you tonight. Will he accept the election result if he loses, and will there be a peaceful transfer of power? Yes or no? I know CDC is a
But there's no possibility of a defeat. There's no possibility of a defeat, given the overwhelming
thank you, sir.
love that the people have. There's no
Thank you,
possibility
sir.
of a defeat.
Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you. So let's go to Letty Brooks Roberts for her 2 questions, and we pray
Thank
that as
you.
we ask the questions, your response will be within 2 minutes at least, so that we can all participate. Thank you, Madam Roberts.
Yeah. Good evening,
Good evening, madam.
Good evening. Good evening.
Dr. Tennant. How are you? Welcome to Bridge
Your line is breaking now.
Radio Africa.
Ms. Roberts, your line is breaking up. We're not hearing you. It's in and out. You are still breaking up. You are still breaking up. Could you log out and come back in to see if it fixes the problem?
Can't see camera issue every now and
Somebody
then.
probably in the room without on the same on the
Can you
scene.
hear me?
No, you are breaking up. You are breaking up.
Pastor Datus, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear now. Much better.
All right. I'll let you go on. I'll come back in. Can you hear me better?
No, you are fine now. Your phone is fine. It's clear. Go ahead.
I'm sorry for the technical difficulty. Okay. Dr. Timmy, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
All right. Please forgive me. I'll come back in.
Okay.
You can hear me? It's a delay.
So,
I'm sorry. So I'm just asking.
No problem.
As a supporter of the CDC government, can you hear me? I hear myself breaking up.
Mrs. Brooks, if you can log out and come back in, that will be
can
fine.
Can you say something? Because I'm not hearing anything.
Yes, we can hear you, but you can't hear us. So log out and come back in. All right. So while she's logged out, Brother Williams, welcome. Thank you so much for being on the platform as always.
Thank you.
You've heard some of the questions. We just want to know your thoughts about the current political climate, specifically to the selection of the Unity Party's VP, potential victory being advocated on both sides. What say you?
Well, I think it's first of all, thank you for having me, and welcome to my fellow panelists. I mean, I'm not concerned about the picking of the vice president. It's the candidate's choice of who he wants to pick. I'm not going to quibble with that because it's in his purview and it is prerogative to do such.
Right.
But what I like to say, based on the record of the ruling party, the ruling government CDC, unlike the second term of UP that they could not run on the record, I'm confident that CDC will win re-election because the president has a record to run on. And I've been listening to other people and asking, I mean, what has Boycott done in the last 6 months or Cummings, even to put a dent in President Weah's 61% victory that he had in the last election? If we be checked, go to county by county, and we did some of our research, President Weah on the ballot is still the favorite. I mean, we all can take our sides right now. It's okay. You can bring John Brown in and say John Brown will win. But if you're going to do some study prognostication, I think the CDC stands a chance because we asked who will win in Bapulu. Who has a chance to win in Bapulu? If you go do that CDC. If you went to Southeastern region, CDC. If you went to Kidman, CDC. Bombing, but you show me data that has changed or who has effectively done anything to change that. So I think President Weah stands a good chance for re-election. Secondly, as to the question that was asked to Dr. Tenney, whether President Weah will give in if he loses election. I mean, constitutional continuity is the hallmark of what we believe. We believe in democracy and the tenets of democracy. We had 2 elections in Montserrat, and we lost. What happened there? If you cannot take that and see that we respect the will of the people, the question is just a gotcha question. It has no backdrop of any reason to believe if that were the case, President Weah would not. But, I mean, I know we want to think otherwise, but I think President Weah will win the election. He has a lot working for him, and I don't see the alternative. Anyone can feel the way they want to feel. I believe that's my party, and I'm going to stand. And I like our chances in this election.
Thank you very much. So, Dr. Tenney, both of you stated that your party has a record. But I think it was 2021, 2022, Dr. Tenney, when you said that this government is morally corrupt and conspicuously inept. Do you maintain that statement?
So it was within the context of
no,
an
morally bankrupt and conspicuously corrupt. Do you maintain that statement?
It was within the context of a spoiled apple that was in our midst, the sanctioned Minister of State. So my ultimate was directed at the Minister of State, that he has created a perception of a morally corrupt government and intellectually bankrupt system for the fact that he denied the intellectual class from taking its rightful place in the governance of the state. So my statement was directed at and targeted towards the Minister of State. At that time, they now sanctioned Falo McGill.
But you said this government is morally bankrupt and conspicuously corrupt. You said this government. You did not single out Mr. McGill at the time. You said this government. And the fact that Mr. McGill worked in the president's office,
I'm telling you now, I'm telling you now, it was within the context of the Minister of State.
Okay. So let me stop here and allow my other colleagues to ask. Madam Brooks, you're back now. Go ahead. Followed by Dr. Fitz and Joel.
Sure. Thank you so much. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties again. Dr. Tenney, as a supporter of this current government, we see that we've had a lot of corrupt, or lack of a better word, not so great performances in this government. However, today we saw that your president let someone go, Mr. Cooper Craw.
Mhm.
And prior to his dismissal, we saw this on the social media by Mr. Moses Akarias Gray. What is your take on that? That he would announce or demand the firing of this gentleman prior to him being let go?
So you see, the essence of political affiliation is to have a sense of belonging. We denied our indigenous citizen opportunity to serve this country. Of course, Minister Crow does not bring any additional value to the governance process at Post and Telecommunication. However, because of his alignment with the MDR, the Rebel Prince Johnson's political party, he was incorporated in the governance structure, denying our own people who have paid their dues, their political dues towards the victory because of the sake of inclusion. He has drawn a line. We didn't draw the line. He has drawn his line. He has taken his side. Based on his choice, we are responding to what he wants. So it is not that we're removing, he has chosen to be removed by implicitly telling us that I'm on this side. So the question is, why should you continue to enjoy our governance structure when you have taken a side to be on the other side? So it's just a matter of decision that he made, and we are responding to the decision that he made.
So, Dr. Tenney, are you saying if you are part of this government, you cannot side with the other parties?
We have
That's what you're saying to us?
the current configuration. You have about 28% of our is that 28? I'm not too sure of the exact amount, but we have a significant portion of the opposition bloc currently within our governance structure, whether at the level of deputy minister or assistant minister or even directors. We have a government of inclusion, a broad-based government of inclusion that included the now isolated Prince Johnson's party. So you see, we have the PLP. The PLP is not a member of the Congress. We have the MPP. We have the LPDP. We have people who still enjoy the confidence of the president. But the question is.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Let's take a short break. A word from our sponsors at this time, and we'll be back.
Di Lorenzo, G Grace, Hems vocal, Liberia number one vocal, Liberia number one, right? Okay.
The phrase, a new sheriff is in town, does not only belong to law enforcement. How about the introduction of Liberia's premier vodka, a quality and customized liquor for all occasions? Try the flavor of your choice. Hems Vodka, Hems Honey, Hems Bitter, and Hems Original Vodka. Hems Vodka has no hangover. That's why they say Papa drink Mama happy. Hems Vodka is sold in all stores, shops, supermarkets, and entertainment centers in Liberia. For wholesale, contact Hems Vodka at 0777 001114, 0777 000-979. We can also be reached via social media on Facebook and IG at Hems Vodka or www.hensvodka.com. In the United States, please contact Hems North America Incorporated at 610-543-9289, 484-888-1622, 484-755-8411. Hems Vodka is approved by the U.S. federal government. Hems Vodka brings out the real man in you.
yo. I tell you, in my boy, in my blood. Every time when I stay on the block, every.
Okay. So, Pastor Ade, are you asking more questions, or can I do a follow up?
Yes, please go ahead and do a follow up.
Okay, thank you so much. So, Dr. Tinney, you stated something about indigenous, that he has no indigenous value. What does that mean?
I don't know. I can't remember saying indigenous value. I don't know what you mean. Within which context? What is it? Ask your question.
That was your response when I said that you let him go because why did you let this gentleman go?
What I'm telling you is the former minister of Kra decided to choose his side of the political divide. Therefore, he cannot enjoy the confidence of our ruling system on the basis of his decision to support the major opposition.
Excuse me. Let me just piggyback, please. 1 minute. Yeah. I think the indigenous context he used was that Cedicians who are real Cedician, indigenous Cedician, or the member of the CDC, the coalition. That's why he was talking about, not tribal issue. That the core members of the coalition part is what he was referring to when he said the indigenous CDC. That's what he meant. He was not. I don't think it had anything to do with anyone's tribal or what indigenous person. That's what he meant.
Thank you for the clarity. That's what I wanted to know. But given all of the people that have that are poorly performing, why is it just because he doesn't affiliate with CDC that you let him go? What about all these other non-performing people that are appointed or serve in this government?
So the issue of non-performance is subjective. What you may consider non-performing could be interpreted otherwise. So don't forget, the president has the right to decide who sits in his cabinet. He has a constitutional obligation to permit that process. He decides, he in fact defines what is performance. So within your context, what you may see non-performance to be, he's seeing it from a different angle. And it is guaranteed under the Constitution because he is the only one who has the prerogative to decide who remains on his cabinet. They are at liberty to go, but he decides who remains. So the question is, when you say someone is not performing, you need to understand the context. I mean, we all understand the context.
Dr. Tenney, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There are specific measurements that that government use to see if a certain person is succeeding or failing. This is not some arbitrary thing where let me think if he's failing or not. You can tell the ministry is underperforming or not. These are not arbitrary. This is not an arbitrary decision.
But the question then is, if you had a sector failure,
no.
It has ramification.
If he was not at the boycott rally, would he still have a job today? That is the question. Because prior to that rally, he had a job, right?
And his performance was
my response to that is that former Minister Kra was chosen against the backdrop of his alignment with the Prince Johnson party. We have a government of inclusion where those who support the vision of the president are incorporated, even to the extent that we compromise, and maybe that's where the indigenous come from, we compromise our own partisans in order to accommodate those who support the vision. But this is a case where the supporter of the vision has chosen not to support the vision. Then why should he be included?
Eugene Nangwe worked for Ellen's government.
But you support the vision. No, you can't compare the situation. Eugene is the founding father of the CDC.
Okay.
His departure was temporary. It was a relief. It was temporary. It was not
Well, the
like
thing is,
it cannot be compared to Minister Kra.
okay.
Kra does not understand the workings of the party, the CDC. He has never been a member of the CDC. In fact, his affiliation with a rebel-linked institution. Hello?
CDC hires based on loyalty tests and not
Yeah,
the competence of an
apparently.
individual.
Hello?
CDC hires based on loyalty tests and not the competence of an individual. That's what you're saying. And this is the CDC you want to give another 6 years to.
We have different stratification in the party. We have the grassroots of those who may not have the formal education but pledge their loyalty towards the governance structure must first of all come into place as a result of a collective participation, whether you have the intellectual capability, the skills, or you are part of the informal sector, those who may not have gotten the formal kind of education, yet they are equally significant within our paradigm.
All right, thank you, Doc. Thank you, Doc. So let's go to, please.
I got one more
go
question.
ahead, Joel.
Yes. So
go ahead.
With Minister Kra, what qualifications did he have, or what was the test that he had to undergo to get this job? And
he was just a member of the Prince Johnson faction.
Is that how he got the job?
Because that is the context of government of inclusion.
So that's
when you have a government of inclusion. Hello, when you have a government of inclusion, it means that those who support your vision and brought you the victory must be accommodated. So we cannot. It is the legislature that will eventually vet the appointment of the president. So we cannot decide who Mr. Prince Johnson will send to us. It is his choice. And based on the enrichment of the coalition, we can dictate to him, no, we want this other person, we don't want that person. The president appoints, and the legislature will do the vetting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Fisk.
Yeah, I've never heard in a long time a bunch of discombobulated mix-up of information that is being provided to the viewers out there. The first thing Dr. Tenney spoke about was that George Weah has tenure and a record to run on. I wish the other gentleman who was the guest on this panel would come back, because the question is specifically directed at him, because Mr. Tenney don't seem to be consistent about what he's saying. But since he is not here, and when he comes, I would like him to answer the question. Okay, so Mr. Tenney is saying that, and which has been the record of the CDC. They are always outsourcing, and they always have this bling gimme as if they're still in the opposition. No, this is a government. This is not an opposition party. So whenever you ask a question, stop looking in the back and answer what is before you. That's the essence of an election. Okay, you talk about using this. 1 minute you say you have standard, the next minute you say you don't have any standard. This person.
I don't remember saying that.
You said it. You inferred that there's standard and there's not standard. What do I mean by that? No, please don't interrupt me. There are standards and there are not standards.
We can correct. We are at liberty to correct. No, we are at liberty to correct certain things that we say, right?
Very erroneous here, and I've been quiet and listening to you. It's been nauseating, but I've been listening to them. So let me speak. Okay. So as I was saying, 1 minute CDC has standard, 1 minute it doesn't have standard. You are saying that the only reason why you first started by saying that Mr. Weah has a record to run on, which presupposes that this so-called government has standard. But when you talk about the fact that someone was incorporated only because they belong to a political party, it tells anyone who's keenly listening that this government has no standard. Then you even went forward and made it sound worse, that when it comes to gatekeeping, governmental gate, which is a basic responsibility of government, you then decided that it must be outsourced to another branch of government, which is the legislature. So you are saying Statutorily, because the legislature is supposed to vet candidates, you as a ruling party, you don't have that prerogative to be able to look at candidates and say, okay, even though you are part of this political party, make sure when you are sending someone, you are sending someone who has some degree of standard. Is that what we are saying? That the Liberian people are just having a bunch of people with no experience, no qualification, nothing to prove, coming into government only because of affiliation? Is that what you're saying? And at the same time saying with a straight face, initially, that this government has standard and a record to run on? That's number one. Number two question, I still go back to jobs. In point 4, I think it's point 4, Mr. President, build a new soccer field. Help us understand the unemployment number of that area and what sense it makes that you'll be building a soccer field for entertainment when he could open a factory. The other day I was talking to Cummings people and I talked about factory. They rightfully said, well, Mr. Cummings is in opposition. The president has the resources to open factory and provide job opportunity for those people. Why are you opening a stadium and not a factory to create jobs for those people? Help me understand those two questions, including the audience.
So the question is, are you not aware that the entertainment sector is an industry by itself? Are you not aware that it gives rise to talent? It breeds talent. Those talents can be marketable. Those marketable talents can accrue the necessary dividend.
Do you understand the difference between something that's acute and something that's chronic? Do you know the difference?
Unless you want to speak on the medical term, but I know what you're talking about.
It has nothing to do with medical
The question
term.
you ask, the question you ask,
is immediate. When
the question you are asking, the question you are asking. Hello, but you ask a question and then you want to answer the question.
The immediate solution for that community is jobs, not entertainment.
So you cannot ask a question and decide which answer you want to hear.
Okay, answer.
You cannot be the one asking the question and demanding the type of response that you want to hear.
Okay.
I'm not at liberty to appease your emotion in terms of what you want to hear. I'm giving you what the reality is on the ground. For the first time in this country, you have a rapid expansion of the entertainment industry in terms of sports. You need to understand the context. Liberia has been devastated and the people have been traumatized. For a very long time, most of our youth being unemployed, not as a result of George Weah, but because of the legacy problems that we have in this country, the structural problem. People are burdened with emotional distress. How do you are in the health sector, I'm sure, how do you de-stress people?
By giving
People
them jobs.
de-stress through several mechanisms, and sport is a therapy by itself. Sport is a therapy.
Jobs is a therapy by itself. You get job and then you go
but
and entertain yourself.
People get job through sport.
Don't you think
how do you think the athletes are paid? What?
Don't you think when you get job, you have a work?
But who told you that these people who play football are not employed by the respective football teams? They are paid. They are earning income.
So if you open a factory to employ 2,000.
No. Understand the context first. Let us set the context. Hello.
200 or 300 people.
Hello. You can decide which industry should employ people. I'm telling you that opening entertainment industry, especially sports stadium all over the country, create job opportunity for young people. We have 72% of our population that is youthful. They may not be absorbed in a formal system. So don't you think that their presence is significant enough to give them a comfortable income? And what if those income can come from sports? What is wrong with that? People who go and practice football, they are now absorbed in the different sporting leagues. They earn income that will put bread on their family's table. Then you say, no, we shouldn't play. We should.
Liberia.
Hello?
Employment population of Liberia. And don't come and give me retrogressive information about, oh, it never happened on George Weah. What's the current unemployment population of Liberia?
So you waiting to listen? When you talk about unemployment, you need to understand the different layers. You have what we call the vulnerable unemployment. You have the frictional unemployment. You have the structural unemployment. So which type of unemployment are you talking about?
You educated or you just listed several different things. So you as
Hello?
public.
Unemployment, you speak to the
Let him
different types
educate the
since you know
public.
that
Let's
there's
see. He
three many.
listed
Yeah,
three.
tell us.
If I came up with
So
different concepts, health concepts, I will provide education.
I can tell you
Mhm.
I can tell you that over 75% of the people are employed. Now you may now de-aggregate what the 25% unemployment will fall into which category. But the actual data is 69% of our people are employed. Whether it is in the formal sector or the informal sector, you have about 69% of the working age population. The working age population are employed.
That's that. Can I continue to speak, Mr. Moderator?
Please go ahead.
Okay. That answer is inaccurate, and it sounds something similar to what we heard in the past. And on paper, people were arguing in the past because you see one of the indicators of employment, one of the indicators of a reduction in stress is the livelihood of the people. Okay, and the production capacity, has it been fully utilized? In other words, we have all the factors of production. You, the economist here, right? Land, labor, capital, unemployed people, and the rest of it. If you were in George Weah's seat, if you were in George Weah's seat and had to choose between creating a bunch of soccer pitches all across the country that would maybe absorb 200-300 people to come and play soccer versus opening factories, because now you have the resources. It's not like you're in an opposition. Now you have the resources to actually incentivize Liberian farmers so that instead of importing rice from China or India and still complaining that the country is poor, you can now incentivize Liberian farmers and get something going in the country. You talk about having a pro-poor agenda. Poor means the absence. Okay, whereas the country has been chronically mismanaged. That's the difference. So help us to understand, in the midst of rampant unemployment, which you have just said does not exist, yet it's still the ordinary lives of Liberians speak to that high level of employment. If you were to choose between building soccer pitches and building factories that would incentivize different aspects of our economy, what would you do?
Go ahead, Dr. Tenney.
The question is for you, Dr. Tenney.
I didn't get your question. You were breaking. You said?
Oh, you didn't get my question? My question is simple. If you were in Mr. Weah's seat and had to choose between building soccer pitches all around the country and opening factories that would incentivize our farmers and the rest of it so that you're not importing rice from China and India and still complaining that you have a pro-poor agenda, what would you do?
So I will look at the marginal productivity of labor. I will look at the structure of our labor force. Who are those that you have in real time to contribute towards, to contribute substantially towards working in a factory? You have a significant number of our people that are unskilled. Factory workers do not only include the ordinary minds. You have people of expertise, because factories are intended for productive purposes. You need different layer of expertise to work in a factory. You cannot
open. Why Mr. Weah has not opened factories because he thinks Liberians are not intelligent enough to put rice in the bag.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. You see, your problem is that you think that we came in the last 6 years with a marching wind to immediately solve a legacy problem, an institutionalized problem. We have structural constraints in this country, structural constraints. Those are impediments. Those are impediments to Those are impediments to development. You need to address the structural foundational problems before you can build on it. In the absence of a solid foundation, your erection will be fragile.
If you
So
thought
you need
that
to
those,
address
if
the
you thought that
structural
those
problem.
structural problems were
How do you
insurmountable, why did you resign your
build
leadership?
factories?
If you thought
How
the
do you build
structural
factories
problems
all
were
over the country?
insurmountable,
How do
why
you
would
build
you vote for
factories
leadership
all
if you
over the
think
country
this
when you
was
do not even
insurmountable?
have the market to absorb the
All right,
product from the
gentlemen.
production process?
Great.
How do you do that?
Thank you.
How
Thank you
would you
both.
go
Thank you
for
both.
leadership if you know within yourself you can't solve the problem? Why? If you can't solve the problem and you have to complain about what
Well,
happened
who said
for
we're
your
not solving the
subsidiaries,
problem?
you
Gentlemen,
can't solve the problem.
Can I chime in a
guys,
Why
little
do
it's
bit?
you
okay.
think that the people overwhelmingly decided to give
Dr.
their
Kenny,
petition to him for the second
If the
term? Who told you
majority
that we're not
were
solving
all
the
white,
problem?
you don't have slavery in
Liberians
in
are
America.
happier
You
now
know
than
that?
ever before.
If
Liberians are
all right,
happier
so
now
Dr.
than ever
Kenny,
was white,
before.
you have slavery in America.
Dr.
Do you
Kenny,
know that?
Dr. Fitz, Dr.
Hello?
Kenny.
Yes.
Let's
Yeah.
let's give Mr. Williams 1 minute to chime in here, and after which we'll give our last questions and have our closing statements as we're just on for 1 hour tonight. Mr. Williams, please chime in.
Thank you again. I'm sorry. I was just going to take on Dr. Fix's question about his statement that the false question, a false narrative that we're building football stadiums around the country and not building factories. That has its residence in fallacy. As
Help me understand the factors
hold
you
on,
guys have
hold
built
on,
within
sir.
the last
I'm
6
listening
years.
to you talk.
No, don't
Okay,
call something fallacy we're all stating. Help me
I'm
understand
telling
the
you,
factors you
because
built
that's
in the
not
last
true.
6 years.
That's not true.
Help
Okay,
me understand the factories. Name them.
but listen, we're not building. No, first of all, we're not building.
Don't call it a
Okay,
fallacy.
but sir, hey, listen, man, you need to have control of the show. These people can make that statement. Let us talk.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, so
you can you can
go ahead.
disagree with me, but when you say the building stadiums across the country and not building factories, that's not true. That's not true. Secondly, when you talk about leadership, you know, some of these, that's a problem with the Liberian so-called intelligentsia class. They came here in 2005 with Ellen with all her international bona fides. He talked, if you can't solve the people problem, then what is leadership? They are talking for us to put the same party who came back with all the resources and did nothing and left Liberia bankrupt. They are telling us today, talking about leadership. Who in Liberia, the Unity Party has shown leadership? Has shown leadership? Travel outside of Monrovia and see the road connectivity. You will have factories and you don't have roads. Look, all the things you're saying, Dr. Faith, is a good thing, but we have to work towards it. It's not just saying a magic wand and everything will be fixed. Liberia has structural problems. We have it's not a quick fix. So I'm just saying to you, yeah, this it's easy to sit back there and criticize. But when we guys have all the resources on the Unity Party under Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, where you could have left this country to a place where today, the very thing you're talking about would not be a problem. I am proud of what we have accomplished thus far, and the Liberian people will offer us a second term. I will not be judged by people sitting here by our critics. Will be judged by our record. And like I said to you earlier, I'm happy for what we've accomplished, and the Liberian people will see that. Go into Bongonima, go into Salaye, go into Fishtown, go into Zwedru, go in those areas and see the roads in Saniquili, in Yekepa. Go there and see the roads, the development. They were not there before. Today, Joseph Boyka can ride to Salaye on a paved road. He was there for 12 years. So you can make those statements. They're not fact. They're not they don't reside in facts. So I understand your qualm. I understand your politics. It's okay. But the truth is the stubborn thing. And time, the greatest innovator, will show us that we have delivered for the Liberian people. I don't care whether you are your CDC, I mean your UP, you ANC. At the end of the day, we are all the harvest of one banana tree. But I'm not just going to sit down and just criticize because we want to criticize, as if to say there's not record from the Unity Party that for 12 years that what are you proud of? What can you say they achieved? Nothing.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Brother Williams.
Mr.
Thank
Williams
you.
spoke directly to me.
30 seconds. 30 seconds, Dr. Fitz.
Okay, fine.
30 seconds.
So, you know, if I tell you that your information is inaccurate, let me be prepared at that same moment to provide what is accurate. So you don't enjoy the convenience of saying something if it's a fallacy and yet not correct the record, which you did not do. And there's a reason for that. No, you talk, I listen. It's my
Okay.
time. Okay.
Good.
You did not correct the record. Okay. And I still maintain that given the huge level of unemployment across the country, the reason why you have leadership is because people can be innovative, people can be ambitious in the interest of the people. This whole thing about backward looking, every time people refer to you guys and talk about the level of expectation, all you guys do is look back. The problem with that is that you need to understand that in as much as Weah was popular for which he was elected, another reason why Weah was elected is because of the public despondence with the performance of Ellie Johnson Sirleaf. That's where you and myself were agreed. Okay, that's where you and I were agreed. So if you come, you see that you have inherited what you have inherited because people were despondent because of the performance, and then yet you yourself, you've not tried to up your game and think you'll always continue to be in opposition. Whenever you are not performing, you continue to look back. It doesn't make any sense. If you think that the problems were insurmountable, it made no sense to go in for leadership. So let the Liberian people, for me, I don't belong to any political party. I've said this openly on this platform. Let Liberia and Liberians select someone who is patriotic, who will understand.
Who determines one patriotism? Who determines one patriotism?
Thanks, guys.
But let me just say this.
1 second.
No, 1 minute.
Wrap up.
You are
okay. You can't say
me. But
because no, you said 30 seconds. He called you to an end. That's why I spoke.
Gentlemen, this is a very great conversation.
Because it's not a quick fix, it doesn't mean it's insurmountable. Because it's not a quick fix, does not mean it's insurmountable.
But then why allude to
gentlemen,
it?
Gentlemen,
no, do you think it's a quick fix? Do you think it's a quick fix?
Gentlemen, Dr. Fitz,
get me Dr. Fix and I on the show to let me answer his questions in the next time. Because something I would love to do that.
1 hour now.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you, guys.
Dr. Fix, have a good evening.
You too, my brother.
All right, guys, it has been a pleasure. Just to recap from you, Dr. Tenney, you said that Liberians are living on more money than ever before, but the president said in his speech that he just realized after 5 years that Liberians are making below the minimum wage. You also referred to Mr. Prince Johnson as a rebel.
No, he didn't say that. You were speaking to a specific group of people. No, you need to present the facts. You can't say the president said our people.
Dr. Tenney, after 5 years of governance, our president stated that he wants Liberian salary to increase after harmonization and 5 years later. You also stated that now Prince Johnson is a rebel personality because of his support for Honorable Joseph Boyka. When he was supporting you guys, was he considered a rebel then?
You asking me the question, right?
Yes, please take 2 minutes.
So you see, Prince Johnson enjoyed our marriage prior to before he was sanctioned. Our divorce from the arrangement of Prince Johnson was predicated upon the United States involvement by sanctioning him. And one of the conditions of the sanction that people should not do business with Prince Johnson. Prince Johnson did not leave the marriage. We allowed him to go. And it was strategic because we did not want to affront the Americans. We do not want to have anyone within our political governance structure or supporting our governance structure who have been blacklisted by the most powerful country on the planet. So we allowed Prince Johnson to go on the basis of his involvement, on the basis that he was sanctioned by the U.S. government. He didn't leave because he wanted to leave. We told him to leave, that we could not continue the relationship with him.
Thank you, Doc. All right, let's have our final closing. Dr. Fez, Joel, Madam Letty Brooks, Joel Williams.
To the 2 CDC panelists here, Dr. Lester, Mr. Williams, thank you both for your insight about the Liberia. I mean, me personally, I last couple of years when I was in Liberia, I didn't see these things you guys are talking about. And sure, people who live there, they will have a different, opinion. But I think we all need to do better in this country. I don't, CDC to me is not governing the country properly. But I will say this: if CDC wins again, and the Liberian people vote CDC in, we deserve CDC and George Weah. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Joel.
Yep.
Dr. Fisk?
I will end by saying this. Mr. Weah has performed as a political placeholder. However, to some degree, it is understandable when the two CDC people talk about reasons for which George Weah needs to be maintained, in the sense that we cannot be replacing a political placeholder with another political placeholder. In other words, the opposition need to demonstrate a stronger tenacity. They need to, all of these issues, the issue of good health, the issue of unsolved death, the issue of unemployment, the issue of activities that show that the election could potentially be unfair. And you don't see the opposition may be acting, but not as overtly as the CDC when people were throwing caskets on the head and the rest of it. I'm not asking other people to go and do that. But what I'm saying is that if you cannot point to societal, sociopolitical ills and talk and highlight them and explain the reasons that these things need to be addressed or how you can address them, then of course, to some extent, you yourself don't even deserve power in the first place. No one, for me, I don't hold anything personal against Mr. Weah. I think every Liberian has the right to run to be president. My concern is how the Liberian people have been treated. Okay, and we cannot use a justification of failures to yet give a narrative of another ongoing failure. We have to do better as a nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fisk. Brother Williams.
Okay, Williamson, but let me just say, first off, thank you, and thanks to everyone who on the show. I think what I listened to, actually, I could have said it better than Dr. Fisk if I were campaigning for CDC. Basically told us, that that's not an alternative to CDC. I like that, and that's the same position I hold, that there's not an alternative to CDC right now. I mean, you heard him in his statement. Look, where things are not perfect in Liberia, we cannot let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Now, a lot of good things happening in Liberia, some of which I alluded to. The roads, and like I said, pick up things in Liberia to fix Liberia is not a quick fix. It does not mean that the problems are insurmountable. No, that would take time. And with time, like I said, the greatest innovator, we will offer to the Liberian people a Liberia of preeminent distinction over the next 6 years. We have seen it. And like I said, today you can drive to Salayedo, go into Boycatan on Kota Road, on paved road. You can do that. You can go to Senequili. You can go to other places. I mean, politics is optics. When people see that, they will appreciate that. So I just want to say to you, I agree with Dr. Fisk that there's no alternative other than President Weah, because basically it's the implication of his statement. Thank you.
Yeah, before Dr. Tennant comes in, let me clarify for the record. And what
so all will be clarified.
Yeah, no, I mean, instead of speaking to your issue, you decided to now use me as your spokesperson to run free ad for CDC, and I think that a little disingenuous. But let me say this: I'm not saying that there is no alternative. What I've said is that the opposition needs to present themselves better. In other words, they are not operating at full cylinder, and they have the capacity to do so, which presupposes that they could potentially be better, but you need to work at it. That's what I'm saying.
Sir, if they had shown you something, you would have said it. For now, they have shown you nothing. We're about 8 months to less than
Thank,
6 months to
thank
election.
you.
What can they show you? So they haven't shown
Thank
you
you.
anything. You
Thank
are
you,
seeing
Mr.
exactly
Williamson.
what I'm saying. Exactly what I'm
Mr.
saying, that
Williamson,
there's
thank
no
you.
alternative.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And
Thank
I
you.
still
Dr.
insist.
Lester, can you
And I still
take
insist.
1
No,
minute, please,
he
to close?
continues to
It's
mischaracterize
okay.
what I'm saying.
We got
So
one-on-one. We got one-on-one coming.
It's
Miss,
okay.
Pastor Ade, you cannot allow the last word to be a misinterpretation of what I'm
So
saying.
it's not a misinterpretation. It's what you just said. You said
No, what I've
you're not
said.
saying. So who
What
has
I've
the
said.
what's the
Gentlemen,
alternative? You have not given the
There's
alternative. You
nuance.
want me? You want
There's
me to
nuance.
surmise it?
There's
gentlemen, we
nuance.
have to bring
There's
you back again.
nuance.
We'll
There's
Yeah,
definitely have
bring
to
us
bring
back.
nuance
you
in
Bring
what
both
us
I
back.
back.
said. There's
Well,
We'll have
nuance
to
in
bring
what
you
I
both
said.
back
we
on
can do
There's
tomorrow.
nuance
Sir,
in
you
what
do
I
not have a
said.
second
To
chance. You
know
do not
what
have a
I
second chance to
said, you
make a
got to
first
know.
impression, Dr. Fisk.
There's
You,
nuance
you
in
do
what
not
I
have a
said.
second
And you
chance to
think
make a
not to
first
know.
impression.
There's nuance in
Gentlemen,
what
we
I
have to
said.
leave it
And
at
You
you're
do
that.
not
thinking
have a
Let's
second
hear from
chance
there's
to make a
nuance in
first
what I
impression.
said. And that's
Mr.
disingenuous. There's
Mr.
nuance
No.
Williamson,
in what
Dr.
I've said.
Fisk,
Okay, thank
And
you,
you
thank you,
are
thank you, thank you.
disingenuous
At
Mr.
least I got you.
Williamson,
I
thank
got
you.
you talking right. I got you
Thank
talking
you.
right. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
But
Fisk.
you don't
Mr.
have a
Williamson,
second chance to make a first
let's
impression.
please allow Madam Roberts to come in and
Please.
close.
What happened to Dr. Tinney? He left?
I probably
Well,
had an
okay.
internet problem.
No, my question I had for him was to find out why did the president let him go, and if so, as compared to this current minister Cooper Crowd that was let go today based on his affiliation or going to another party's attending another party's event, I feel then this legislature should have taken action when our president left for 48 days to go to watch his son's game. And, nothing wrong with him watching a game, but not for 48 days. And nothing was done about it. But in giving you an alternative, I want you to know I listened to Mr. Cummings today, and he said to us, if government experience is stealing from the people, then I don't want to be an experienced government personnel. And change the corrupt system. We must not just change political parties, we must change principles. I open my arms to a better Liberia. Don't ask if Mr. Cummings can win. Ask if you are ready for real change. Liberians, you have an alternative. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time spent with us in discussing Liberia. This is Bridge Radio Africa, the medicine of the microphone, none other but the giant media mogul, Ashford Garland. I want to thank you for listening to this segment of Bridge Radio Africa, and we look forward to having you again on tomorrow at 8 p.m. Thank you for your time. In the words of Joseph Boyka, political aspirant, thank Liberia, love Liberia, built Liberia. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.